This video is over parabolas, graphing and then writing equations of parabolas. A parabola is a set of points such that each point is equidistant to a fixed point called the focus and a line called the directrix. Okay, D1, which is distance, equals D2 for all points on the parabola. So we have a parabola here, and it's saying that this distance from the focus to this point and from the point to the directrix will always be the same. They will always be equal here. Okay, this is the axis of symmetry. We've already learned what that is in the past when we've talked about quadratics and a parabola. The axis of symmetry is just the vertical imaginary line that cuts the parabola in half. It goes through the vertex point. Okay, you've also already learned what a vertex is. The only new pieces here is a focus is going to be inside the parabola, and then the directrix is outside the parabola here. Okay, different types. You have a vertical and you have a horizontal. So vertical is open up or down, and then a horizontal is open left or right. And I also labeled what each of the pieces are on here. The focus always lies inside the parabola. I just said that. The directrix always lies outside the parabola. The directrix and axis of symmetry are perpendicular to each other. Okay, so those are perpendicular. The vertex is absolute value of p units away from the focus and directrix. So these are the same distance here. The focus and the directrix are the same distance from the vertex. The standard form is x minus h squared equals 4p times y minus k. Okay, that's for the vertical. For the horizontal, all these, the y minus k and the x minus h, just switch each other. Okay, the direction of the opening opens up if your p is greater than 0, opens down if p is less than 0. It opens to the right if p is greater than 0, and opens to the left if p is less than 0. Okay, for graphing parabolas, first you always want to write the equation in standard form. Determine the type of parabola. Is it going to be vertical or horizontal? Graph the vertex, the HK. Solve for p to determine the direction of the opening. Use absolute value of p to graph the focus and the directrix, and then sketch the parabola. Okay? All right, so number 1. First, we want to determine, is it going to be vertical or horizontal? Because we have x squared right here first, okay? If we have the x that comes first, then it's going to be vertical. Okay, so we know that this is going to be vertical. All right, so then you've got to figure out what the vertex is. Well, the vertex is based off of the numbers that are with the x and the y. Well, since there's not any there, then it's going to be 0, 0. So our vertex is 0, 0. Okay, our axis of symmetry, we know it's vertical here, so we know that it's going to be x equals, because it's going to be a vertical line, and it is always the number of the vertex. That if it's the x equals, then it's going to be the x value of the vertex, so it's x equals 0. Okay, so it's going to be a vertical line on the y-axis right there. To find our focus and our directrix, well, first we need to figure out what our p is going to be. Okay, so you take the number that's in front of the y right here, -8, and you set it equal to 4p. And the reason why we do that is because the original equation says 4p right there. So we set it equal to 4p so we can figure out what our p is going to equal. So we need to solve for p. So you're going to divide by 4. -8 divided by 4 is -2. So our p is -2. Okay. So because it is -2, this number is right here where it says this number is less than 0, then it's going to open downward. If it were greater than 0, if it were positive, it would open up, but it's negative, so it's going to open downward. Okay, so we know this is going to open down. So it's going to go this direction, which means that our focus, okay, because it's absolute value of 2, our focus is right here. Our directrix is going to be right here. Okay, because 2 away, 2 away. So that means our focus is at the point 0, -2. And our directrix, which is a horizontal line, so it's going to be y equals 2. Okay, and then that's pretty much all that you do to be able to graph that. I'm not really too worried about the rest of the points. You can, if you wanted to figure out the rest of the points, if you wanted to get this into like a y equals format and so on and so forth to get the rest of the points evenly and stuff, you can. I'm not really too worried about that. I just want you to graph this part correctly, and then from here, we know that it's going to open up like this. Okay, we know it's going to be a parabola, and it's going to look like that. Just make sure you have your focus, your vertex, your directrix, and then just draw a parabola, and I'm good with that. Okay. Number 2, because we have y squared here, we know that this is going to be horizontal. Okay, so we don't have any numbers with the y and with the x, so our vertex is going to be 0, 0. Okay, we want to take this 6 and we want to set it equal to 4p. Divide both sides by 4. P is going to equal 3 over 2. Okay, because this is positive, that means that it's going to open up to the right. Okay, and 3 over 2 is the same thing. I'm going to say right here. 3 over 2 is the same thing as 1.5. So our focus is 1.5 right here. Our directrix is 1.5 right here. And it is a dotted line. Like that. Okay, and draw our parabola. Like that. Okay, our axis of symmetry this time is going to be a horizontal line, so it's going to be y equals, and it's the y of the vertex, which is 0. Our focus is 1.50. Our directrix is negative 1.5. Or negative 3 over 2. Either way, same thing. And this is our directrix here is a vertical line, so you say x equals negative 1.5 or 3 over 2. They equal the same thing. Okay? All right, the next one. Okay, we have our y comes first, so it's horizontal. Okay, we have 2 and 3. Our h here is 3 and our k is 2. So our vertex is 3, 2. Make sure you don't get that backwards. Okay, what's always with the y is a k, what's always with your x is your h. So just make sure that you do write that in the correct format. Okay, so then you want to take your negative 4, set it equal to 4p, divide both sides by 4, and our p is going to be equal to negative 1. Okay, so because this is less than 0, then it's opening up to the left. So we start at 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's going to open in this direction. Our focus is going to be 1 this way. Our directrix is 1 this way. And it's going to be like this. Okay, so our axis of symmetry here, it's going to be a horizontal line, so it's y equals the y value of the vertex, which is 2. Our focus is going to be 2, 2. And our directrix is going to be, it's a vertical line, so it's x equals 1, 2, 3, 4. X equals 4. Okay. All right, the next one, x comes first, so it's going to be vertical. Our vertex is going to be negative 1, negative 2. We take 14, set it equal to 4p and solve. Divide both sides by 4, and p is going to be 7 over 2. Okay, which is the same thing as 3.5. Okay, because this is a positive, it is going to open upward. All right, so we have, since it's going to be vertical here, our axis of symmetry is going to be a vertical line. So it's going to be x equals, and it's the x value of our vertex, which is -1. Our focus, it's open up, so it's going to be up 3.5 right there. Our directrix is going to be down 1, 2, 3.5 right here. Okay, and it's going to look like this. All right, our focus is going to be -1, -1.5. Our directrix is a horizontal line, so it's going to be y equals, and that is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Oh, -5.5, sorry. -5.5. Okay, all right, let's go to the next sheet. All right, on number 5 here. Okay, so first, we have got to get rid of this 1/4. We've got to get to the other side. So in the front, it needs to either say x squared or y squared. You don't need anything else in front of that. So to get rid of the 1/4, you can't divide by a fraction. So instead, we multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/4 is 4. So we're multiplying this side by 4. So that turns into x squared equals 4y. Now it is in the correct format, and this is going to be vertical because the x squared is, well, because it has x squared, so it's going to be vertical. Our vertex is going to be 0, 0. Okay, we have 4 equals 4p. Divide both sides by 4, and p equals 1. Because this is positive, it's going to open upward. Okay, our axis of symmetry is going to be a vertical line, so it's going to be x equals, and it's x of the vertex, so it's x equals 0. Our focus, we go up 1. Our directrix, we go down 1. And it's going to look like this. Okay, our focus is going to be at 0, 1. Our directrix is a horizontal line, so it's going to be y equals -1. Okay, all right, the next one. First, we want to add the 3 over, so that becomes -1/10 y plus 2 squared equals x plus 3. Then we've got to get rid of this -1/10 and move it to the other side. So we've got to, you can't divide by a fraction, so instead we multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of -1/10 is -10. So we have y plus 2 squared equals -10 parentheses x plus 3. Okay, since it's y squared, this is going to be horizontal. Take the -10, set it equal to 4p. Divide both sides by 4, and we have -5/2. Because it's negative, it is going to open up to the left. Okay, our vertex here is going to be -3, -2. Our axis of symmetry, well, first let me go ahead and graph this. Our axis of symmetry is going to be a horizontal line here. So it's going to be y equals -2. Okay, -5/2 is the same thing as -2.5. Okay, so our focus, -2.5, or 2.5 right here. Our focus is right there, and our directrix is going to be right here. Okay, and it's going to open this direction. Okay, so our focus here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -5.5, -2. And then our directrix is going to be, since it's a vertical line, it's going to be x equals, and it is 0.5. or negative 0.5, sorry. Negative 0.5, okay? All right, the next one. We have y squared, so right here we want to get this y over here, and we want to get the x over to the other side. Okay, so that turns into y squared minus 2y. I'm going to leave a gap there. We're going to add 16x over to the other side. So we have 16x minus 33. Okay, right here, we need to complete the square. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. So we want to add 1 on both sides. Okay, now we can finish this completing the square. So what multiplies to get 1 and adds to get negative 2 is negative 1. So we say y minus 1 squared. Over here, we have 16x and negative 32. Okay, now to simplify this right here, because we need to get that x in the parentheses and we have to have a p there, we've got to take out the greatest common factor out of this. The greatest common factor of both of these terms right here is 16. Okay, so this side we just pull down. We're factoring out a 16 out of this. 16x divided by 16 is x, and negative 32 divided by 16 is negative 2. Now this is in the correct format, and because the y goes first, this is going to be horizontal. Okay, our vertex is going to be 2, 1. Because this is horizontal, our axis of symmetry is going to be a horizontal line. So it's going to be y equals 1. Okay, to find our p, we have 16 equals 4p. Divide both sides by 4, and p equals 4. Because this is a positive, it's going to open up to the right. It's going to open this direction. Okay, so our focus here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Our directrix is 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. Okay, and it's going to look something kind of like this. So our focus is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And our directrix, it's a vertical line, so it's going to be x equals, and it's at negative 2. So x equals negative 2. Okay. All right, look at the next one. So we have an x squared. So that means the y needs to get moved to the other side, and that 1 needs to be moved to the other side. So we have x squared plus 10x, leave a gap. We've got to subtract the 4y over and subtract the 1 over. Okay, so now we need to complete the square with this part. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So we've got to add 25 on both sides. Okay, finish completing the square. So what multiplies to give you 25 and adds to give you 10 is 5. So we have x plus 5 squared. On this side, we have negative 4y, and negative 1 and 25 is 24. Okay, now to get this to where it is in the proper format with the 4p times the parentheses, we've got to take out our greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor out of this, we can take a negative 4 out of both terms. Okay, so we have negative 4y divided by negative 4 is y. 24 divided by negative 4 is negative 6. Now it's in the correct format. Because the x comes first, this is going to be vertical. We have negative 4 equals 4p. Divide both sides by 4, and p equals negative 1. Because this is a negative, it's going to open downward. Our vertex here is negative 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our axis of symmetry is going to be a vertical line, which is x equals negative 5. Our focus here is going to be right here, and our directrix is going to be right here. Okay, so our focus is at negative 5, 7. No, I'm sorry, it's right here. It's at negative 5, 5. And then our directrix is going to be at y equals 7. And it's going to look something like this. Okay, all right, so that's graphing parabolas. Now let's look at the next note sheet with writing equations of parabolas. Okay, so it says the standard form for the equation of a parabola of vertex HK, and it just reminds you of what the vertical parabola equation is going to be, and then the horizontal parabola equation is going to be. And then it says that the absolute value of P is the distance from the vertex to the focus and the directrix. Okay, so we need to pick out what our vertex is going to be here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our vertex is at 0, 5. We also need to know what our P is going to be. And P is just the distance here from the vertex to the focus, or whatever piece of information that they give you. So that's going to be 2. So our P equals 2. Okay, because this is vertical, we know that our X is going to go first. Okay, and since our X of our vertex is 0, that's like saying X minus 0 squared, which is the same thing as just saying X squared, equals, we know that our P is 2, and this is 4 times 2, which is going to be 8. And then our K, we have Y minus 5 squared. And that is going to be your equation. Okay, on number 2, our vertex here is at 1, 2, 3, negative 2. Our P is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is vertical, or I'm sorry, vertical is horizontal. So that means that our Y is going to go first. Okay, so that means we have Y plus 2 squared equals 4 times our P, which is 5, which is 20. 4 times 5 is 20. And we have X minus 3 squared. And that's our equation. Oh, I'm sorry, not squared. Why do I keep writing squared on that second part? It doesn't have squared up here. It's just the parentheses. You know what? On this one right here, let's see. Oh yeah, I didn't pay attention to that part. Okay, on this one right here, because this is open upward, we know our P has to be a positive, but this one, because it's open to the left, our P actually has to be a negative. So this is, because if it were positive, it would open to the right. So this is actually a negative 5, which would make this a negative 20. Yeah, we do have to pay attention to which way or which direction that it opens up as well. Okay, so on number 3, because it opens to the right here, then we know our P is going to be a positive number. It's going to be greater than 0. Also, because this is horizontal, we know that our Y comes first. Our vertex is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6, 1. And our P is going to be 1. And it's a positive 1 because this is open to the right. Okay, so our equation is going to be Y minus 1 squared equals 4 times our P, which is 1, which is 4, and then X plus 6, and it doesn't have squared. I actually wrote that on the last two. It doesn't have squared on the second parentheses. So that's the equation right there. Okay, on number 4, this is open downward. It's vertical, so our X comes first. Our vertex here is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's negative 4, negative 5. Okay, our P, which it is going to be a negative because it's open down, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's our P is negative 10. Okay, so this is going to be X plus 4 squared equals 4 times negative 10 is negative 40, and that is X plus 5. And that's our equation. Y plus 5. My goodness. Y plus 5. X, Y. There we go. Okay, so that's if you're given a graph. Now, if you are given a vertex and a focus, okay, we've got to figure out, is it going to be vertical? Is it, or in which direction is it going to open up from? Okay, to do that, if you remember, your focus is always inside of your parabola. Okay, so if our vertex, in this case right here, is at 0, 0, and our focus is at 0, 4, that means it's got to be vertical and it's got to open upward. Okay, and you can use a graph to figure that out, but you don't have to. You can always just think about it visually if you want to, or I mean, I just like to look at the picture to be able to see it. Okay, so it's a vertical and it's open upward. We also have to figure out what our P is. Well, our P is going to be the distance from the vertex to the focus. And in this case, it's going to be 4, and because it's open upward, it's going to be positive. So our P is 4. Okay, so our equation here is going to be, because it's vertical, it's going to be x squared comes first, and x minus 0 squared is just simplifies to x squared. And then 4 times 4 is 16. And then we have y. Okay, because our vertex here is 0, 0. So that's going to be our equation. Okay, now on this one, the vertex is still 0, 0, but our focus is 5 over 2, 0. So if we're at 0, 0, 5 over 2 is 2.5. Okay, so that's 2.50 right here. So 0, 0, and then 2.50. So that means it's going to open to the right. So this is horizontal, and it opens to the right. So that means our y is going to come first, and it's going to be a y squared equals, okay, well, our distance is going to be from 0 to 5 over 2, which is 2.5. So we've got to do 4 times 5 over 2. Hold on one second. 4 times... Yeah, that's right. Okay. Oh, excuse me. 4 times 5 over 2, which is going to equal 10. Okay, and you can write that over here to the side if you want to. If you want to say 4 times 5 over 2 and figure out what that equals. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So that we have 10, and then because our vertex here is 0, 0, then that's just going to be an x. So y squared equals 10x. Okay, let's flip that over to the other side. Okay, we still have a vertex here and a focus. So we have a vertex at -7, 1 and a focus of -7, 3/4. Okay, so vertex of -7, 1. So we're looking like out here somewhere. And then a focus of -7 3/4. Okay, so our vertex is here, our focus is going to be like right below it. So that means it's going to open downward. So it's going to be vertical and down. Okay, and the distance here from 1 to 3/4 is 1/4. Okay, so our P is 1/4, and since it's open down, it's got to be a negative. So our P is going to be -1/4. Okay, and because it's vertical, our X is going to come first. So this is going to be X plus 7 squared equals, okay, well, -1/4 times 4. Positive times a negative is a negative. 4 times 1 is 4, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So it's -1. And then we have y minus 1. And this is going to be our equation right there. Okay. The next one, we have 2, -6, and -3, -6. So 2, -6, somewhere down here, and -3, so 2, -6, and -3, -6. Vertex, focus. So that means it's going to be open to the left. So horizontal, and it's open to the left. Okay, so from 2 to -3, the distance between that is 5, and because it's open to the left, it's going to be a negative, so our P is going to be -5. So we have 4 times -5 is -20. Because it's horizontal, our Y is going to come first. So this is going to be Y plus 6 squared equals -20 x minus 2. That's our equation. Okay, now we're given a vertex and a directrix. You're still doing the same thing, but now you just got to think about it on the opposite side. Okay, so our vertex is at 0, 0. Our directrix is y equals 8. Well, if it's y equals, that's a horizontal line. Okay, so we know it's going to be vertical. And y equals a positive 8. Well, if we have our vertex is at 0, 0 and y equals a positive 8 is up here. Remember, directrix is always on the outside, so our parabola opens the opposite direction. So that means it's going to open down. Okay, if it's down, our P is negative, and that's 8 away from that. So our P is going to be -8. So that means we have 4 times -8 is -32. Vertical, that means x goes first, so we have x squared, and then we have -32y. Okay, the next one, we have 0, 0 as our vertex. Our directrix is x equals, which means that it's that's a vertical line, so we have a horizontal here. And it's x equals -2. So our vertex is at 0, 0. X equals -2 is right here. So that means it's going to open to the right. Okay, if it opens to the right, that means it's going to be positive. So we have +2. It's going to be our P. So we have 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, because it's horizontal, the y comes first. So this is going to be y squared equals 8x. Okay, for the next one, our vertex here, and we have a directrix of x equals. So if it's vertical, so that means that this is going to be horizontal. Okay, our vertex is at 7, 4. And our directrix is at 3/2, which is 1.5. So 7, 4, directrix is over here. So that means it's going to open to the right. Okay. All right, so then you have to find your P. Well, 1.5 from 7 is 5.5, and because it opens up to the right, it's going to be positive. So we have P equals 5.5. So you have 4 times 5.5, which is going to equal 22. Okay, so because it's horizontal, that means that our y is going to come first. So we have y minus 4 squared equals 22 times x minus 7. Okay, on the other one, the next one here, we have a vertex at -1, -1, a directrix of y equals -8. So since it's y equals, it's horizontal, which would mean that this is going to be vertical. Okay, and we have -1, -1, which is right here. And then we have y equals -8, which is down here. So that means that this is going to open up. Our P, so from -1 to -8 is 7. And because it opens up, it's going to be positive. So P equals 7. So 4 times 7 is 28. So since it's vertical, our x comes first. So we have x plus 1 squared equals 28 times y plus 1. Okay, All right, this last section here, they've given us the focus and the directrix. So remember that the vertex is directly in between the focus and the directrix. So we have to find the midpoint between the two. Okay, so if our focus here is 3, 0, and our directrix is x equals -3, then that means that this here has a point of -3. So if we're looking directly in between that, then we have 3. And the reason why we use the x point is because we have x equals here. So we have 3 plus -3 divided by 2. Okay, well 3 plus -3 is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. And so our vertex is going to be 0, 0. Okay, so our P, how far is 3, 0 from 0, 0? Our P is 3. Okay, because also we need to figure out which direction this is gonna open. Is it gonna be horizontal or vertical? Well, if we have 0, 0 as our vertex and 3, 0 as our focus, so we have 0, 0 and 3, 0, that means it's going to be, oh, I'm sorry, 3, I said 0, 3. 0, 0 and 3, 0, which is right here. This is gonna be horizontal and it's gonna open up to the right. So horizontal and right. Okay, and since it's open up to the right, this is gonna be positive. So then we have 4 times 3, which is 12. So since it's horizontal, our y comes first, and we have a vertex of 0, so we have y squared equals 12 times x, and that's our equation. Okay, for this next one, we have y equals here, so that means we're going to use the y value of the focus. So we have -2 plus -4 divided by 2. -2 plus -4 is -6. -6 divided by 2 is -3. Okay, so our vertex here, because we have y equals, then that means that that's a horizontal line, which means that it's going to be vertical. Okay, so that means that our x values have to be the same. So this is going to be 7, -3 is our new y value. That's going to be our vertex. Okay, so our P, well, if our vertex is at 7, -3, and our focus is at 7, -2. Well, 7, -3 is right here. 7, -2 is right here for the focus. So it's open upward. So we know that our P is going to be positive. Okay, and our focus from our vertex here is 1 point away. So that's going to be 4 times 1, which is 4. So we have, since it's vertical, our x is going to come first. So we have x minus 7 squared equals 4. And then we have y plus 3. That's our equation. This next one, we have our focus here. We have a directrix of x equals 4. X equals is a vertical line, so we know that this is going to be horizontal. Okay, x equals 4, so we're looking at the x value. So we have -8 plus 4 divided by 2. -8 plus 4 is -4. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So then our vertex, our x value is -2, and our y value is the same as our focus, which is 5. Okay, so for our P, -8 from -2 is 6 away. And let's see, our vertex is at -2, 5, and our focus is at -8, 5. So that means that it opens up to the left. So our P is going to be -6 because it opens to the left. So then we have 4 times -6, which is -24. Because it's horizontal, our y goes first. So we have y minus 5 squared equals -24, and then x plus 2. All right, last one here, we have -4, -3 over 2, and y equals -1/2. Because it's y equals, that's a horizontal line, so that means that our parabola here is going to be vertical. Okay, we use the y value, which is -3/2 plus -1/2. And this whole thing is over 2. -3/2 plus -1/2 is -4/2, which -4/2 simplifies down to -2, and -2 divided by 2 equals -1. Okay, so our vertex, this is the y value, so this is the x value, so -4, -1 is going to be our vertex. So we have -4, -1, and then we have -4, -3/2. -3/2 is -1.5. So that is going to be right here. So we have our vertex and we have our focus. So that means it's going to open down. Okay, so that means that our P, since it opens down, is going to be negative. And from -1 to -3.2 is -1/2, which is 0.5, which means we have 4 times -0.5, which is going to equal -2. Because it's vertical, our x comes first. We have x plus 4 squared equals -2 times y plus 1 is our equation. Okay? All right, so this sums up graphing and writing equations of parabolas.